Hello guys, welcome today. Join me as I'm going to be transplanting these tomatoes that you see here onto these two tires here. If you remember from last time, these two tires, they were the only ones remaining without any tomatoes in it. But now the seedlings, they've now grown, they are now mature enough to be transplanted. So we are going to be transplanting them today, and the hope is that they will grow just enough to look like these are the plants that you see right now. It's just an old friend, but for now we have to do business. We have to transplant these tomatoes. So now the first thing that we're going to do, we are going to need to dig the holes that we'll be transplanting the tomatoes onto, which is what I'm doing now. So I'm going to dig 4 holes using my hand, but guys, you don't have to do this the way I'm doing it. If you have a tool to use, please use it. If you have a trowel, or I don't know, maybe anything, you just need something that you can use to dig these holes. If you have a tool, use a tool. But if you do end up using your hands just like I'm doing, remember guys to wash your hands after, because hygiene is everything. We have to stay healthy, because staying healthy is not just about eating, it's also about cleanliness. So you also need to wash your hands after digging these holes with your hands. And also as you are digging, as I'm just doing, maybe I'm noticing that there are some stones and stuff, so I'm also removing those, trying to make sure that when wherever that I'm planting these plants onto, the soil is really clean, and there is not any stone or whatever. So now I'm going to be transplanting these tomatoes, and this, it's not a special tool or whatever, it's just a 50 millimeter waste pipe. So it's the one that I'm using because it has got an advantage, as you can see, like it did there. When I uplift the plant using this pipe, it not only uplifts the plant by itself, it's not uprooting the plant, but it's actually taking the plant together with the soil surrounding the roots. So that's what we want for each and every plant that we're going to be transplanting. We want to remove the plant with the soil surrounding the roots. We want the soil surrounding the roots to be as one, to remain intact, because that way we have a better chance of making sure that our plants, they do not suffer much transplanting shock as possible. But even if the tool fails, just like mine did right now, you can still use your hands, but the same principle applies again. Use your hand to hold the plant together with the soil surrounding the roots of the plant, because that's what we want to achieve here. Because like I said again, the transplanting shock, if you remove it, the roots together with the soil, just like this time, the transplanting shock is much less compared to as when you remove the soil that surrounds the roots. But now that we have successfully uplifted all these plants and put them in their respective places, now we have to refill these holes that we dug up. So we have to make sure that, to compact a little bit, to make sure that the plants, they are upright, and the soil is, and the plant has got enough soil around it, because we need it to have as many roots as possible, which is also why we have transplanted these plants to a very significant depth, because I wanted to develop as many roots as possible. Which is why whenever you are transplanting, you have to make sure that much of the plant is downwards, because much of the stem that I've put downwards, it will develop roots, and more roots means it will be better suited to support as many fruits as possible. So when you're doing it, just do it that way. So now we are done with these ones. But if you remember, if you recall from last time, we had a tomato here, this one. It was not growing at pace with the other tomatoes. I only noticed it a little bit later. But even if I had earlier, there was nothing really that I could have done, because as you can see, I calculate things. So I had calculated that these plants, they were going to be enough, but they weren't. So this one, I had no choice but to leave it till today. But then now looking at it today, as you can see, this plant here, it has got many stems. So I don't think that even if I transplant a new tomato here, it will grow. So it doesn't make sense, because this one has got many stems, too much vegetation, it's covering this one. So it won't grow if I transplant a tomato right there. I was also thinking of maybe putting it somewhere in the middle, but then we have this plant here I don't think the plant population, they'll be too close. I don't want that. So I think in the end, we're not going to transplant that tomato. We're just going to leave it as it is, because the plant with the main stems will cover for it. But now guys, the soil is moist, but you are still going to water it. Why? Because you want to make sure that our chances of success, they are really maxed out, because we're not aiming for 60, 70 or 80%. I'm aiming for 100%. So each and every factor that I can control, I have to make sure that I maximize and I do the very best that I can, which is why I'm also watering even though the soil is moist. But we are not going to put in too much water. We just need enough to make sure that the plants, they don't get much transplant shock as possible. So with that, I think this is enough. We're going to leave it like that. But in the end guys, we've successfully transplanted the tomatoes. Now let's have one final look at the other plants to see how they're doing. So from a distance, we're not going to dive much deep in, but from a distance, they are good. They're good. Everything is fine. The leaves, maybe the leaves, they're just too many. If there are too many, they might harbor some insects, some diseases or whatever. But for today, I'm going to leave them like that. When I remove them guys, I'll show you. Now let's have one final look at the tomato, at the carrots. They're fine. And that guys, don't forget to comment and share. Thank you.